was a gentleman.
It can sometimes get a little hot.
Yes, yes.
Well, sometimes both of them.
I don't remember Grandpa ever getting
I don't either.
He'd just say, that's enough.
Yeah, that's about what he would say. Even when we were kids, he would say that.
Well, there was times when he would take a lot from somebody and then boom, especially Uncle Don, Pop, and Florence.
They'd come over and they'd say, oughta.
You ought to do this. You know how the Swartzes were.
Yes. And are to this day.
They had a lot of advice.
And if they so smart, why wasn't they rich?
And one other day, I remember when you and Marvin upset the Oliver or whatever it was down on the banks of the creek. I remember that day. That was a hard
No, that
day.
was Dale and Marvin.
I thought it was you and Marvin.
No, that
Marvin
was
and
the
I
Oliver
tipped-
in the yard.
Tipped the Oliver
in the
over
barnyard.
in the front yard.
Oh, I thought it was
where
at the
Grandma
creek.
could see. That was not a
No,
good idea.
Grandma and Grandpa
No,
weren't
they
there.
weren't there.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought it was at the
Janet
creek
and
that you
Marvin
did.
and I just came home from school.
And I was in the house listening to the radio.
Ironing, use damn new clothes.
I was?
As long as you
I
had
thought-
proof that you were in the house, that was all that mattered.
Yeah, as long as you were in the house and you weren't part of it.
How old?
Second grade.
He was second grade.
Oh,
Okay,
But
I've
I
had
was
third
thinking it
grade.
was, the one I remember is down by the creek.
That was an Alice Chalmers.
That was
Well,
Alice
whatever it
Chalmers
was.
and Dale. And Marvin was supposed to be driving.
Yeah,
He let Dale on it.
okay.
Dale let the throttle wide open at the end and pulled the plow up, and the front wheels went up. Right, the rear wheel ran up. They turned and they went right over.
And remember when we used to go down there roller skating, ice skating on the creek there?
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh.
That was so much fun.
It was, and then we'd build fires on the ice, and then we'd get on the sled and slide somebody into the hole.
I don't know. I remember we had
And you
bales.
thought you had fun in
And they'd freeze right in the ice.
Well, we'd jump over the bales. Remember that
Oh yeah,
when we were
yeah,
skating?
I remember that.
Oh, wow.
I also
Sounds
remember
painful.
that one time you made, I don't know which of you it was, but you made Dale and I smoke ragweed, and that's probably why we never smoked. Because that ragweed was the nastiest thing I'd ever laid my mouth on. And one puff was enough for me. I said, ah!
Yeah, well,
They lived up where, on the corner there. For how many
Oh.
years? 1 or 2.
I don't remember.
Okay.
But I just, from the time I was
And
And
really
they were
little,
always down to our place.
I spent time at their house. Rather than staying at home, I stayed with them.
So do you remember
Sometime
what
I
your
year
mom
that
found
was?
out
Yes,
Paul
I do.
bought that place
I
from
have a record of that.
Okay. Okay.
Pop.
Oh, is that right?
She said,
Ruth wrote down all of the places they stayed and how many years they stayed there.
Oh wow.
And they were the movingest people ever.
I think I lived 11 places before I got out of high school.
Oh,
I don't
dear.
doubt it.
And the
I
first time we moved was when I was 10.
Probably.
11.
You were down at Hoboken
We
a
were
long time.
we were at Harmon until I was 11, and we moved into Dixon. Daddy had back trouble and couldn't do the farming business.
And you worked for coffees.
And he worked for Coffee Implement for 3-4 years, I don't know.
And then you moved out
But
to the farm.
We moved out then by them, but and then Daddy had the surgery, and it was at that time a back surgery that was considered experimental. Now it's nothing, you know. But at that point it was considered experimental, and then he went back to farming. But we moved from Harmon to Dixon to that house going up 38,
Yeah.
and then we moved out there by you.
Us.
Then we moved over to Dr. Collins' farm, I think, on
I
the
am
highway
26.
Yeah, that's
26.
Collins' place.
And then Daddy bought that farm up north of Dixon on the way to Polo.
No, you were over on the 52 someplace too, weren't you?
Oh yeah, we did, across from the Johnses.
Yeah,
we,
I-
we
And
were
you
across
went.
there.
You were still
drove
going to school there. You went to Aldina.
Yeah, no, I went to Dixon all the time.
Well, I thought
I was in high school by then.
Okay, maybe it was Diane went to Aldina.
I don't remember if she
Grade
ever
school.
went to Aldina, but
Harold
Maybe
Wiggins
she never went to
lives
school.
there now.
I think that's part of the problem. But anyway, then we moved up north of Dixon across
Okay.
from Uncle Sherman at Francis.
Right.
And then they moved up on to Woosong on the County Line Road there.
Yeah,
And then they moved to
south of Polo.
Archie Deal's
that
place.
house, I
Well, you-
remember being in
you
that
lived
house with
north.
the vaulted ceiling.
They lived
And it
north
looked like
of
wood on the
on
inside.
Lowell
Really?
Park Road at one time.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, they
Then
went
they
to Old
moved-
Park Road
Yeah,
too.
somewhere they were in between
Then
there.
they
But
moved over
by then
to-
I was graduated and I left home my senior year.
Louis, Archie Deal's place.
That was over on 26th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved them
But they
then.
lived on Lowell Park Road.
Yeah.
But I had, in my senior year, which I think we were up by Uncle Sherman at Francis north of Polo, I left home then. And never really went back.
I left home after I graduated from high school too. And
I didn't
went
wait
back.
that long.
Jim thought when
I
we were
left in the
engaged
middle
I
of the
should
year.
move back home to save money.
Had a very
I
hard
said,
relationship
I can't
with
do
my mother.
that. I cannot move back home.
No, I left about Thanksgiving time
Is that
of
right?
my senior year, and I never really went back home. I went back home and
Where'd
spent
you
the
stay?
night before I got married, and that was the first time I'd slept in that house for many years, since I was a senior in high school. But I was 23 when I got married, so I left then.
So
Hard
do you have
relationship with mother.
any Wilbur or Marion Bollman grandpa and grandma stories you want to tell? That's what we're supposed to do. When we come to their grave, we're supposed to remember them and tell the stories.
Well, I remember one time he yelled at me because, and it was a good thing because he yelled because I almost got hit. So we had parked the wagon in the corn crib, and then I had pulled ahead with the tractor, and luckily I had put the tongue up on the wagon, because then the wagon came out of the corn crib and downhill real fast and hit the back of the tractor. We had no cabs back then.
Right.
So that thing barely missed my head. So if it wasn't for him saying, hey, you know, I probably wouldn't have ducked. So. And then I remember your dad all the time having the straw hat and finding him out in the cornfield or bean field.
Oh, yeah.
And
Just
we'd
looking
have
for
to
the
walk
straw
the
hat.
beans.
Remember when
Oh,
he
yeah.
used to make us go out there and pull weeds out of the beans? Oh, for
Them
hours.
gnats flying around, or sweat bees flying around, he had drove him nuts.
Yep.
So he put DDT or
Well, probably we did back
bug
then.
spray on his hat.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
But
what
he did have
did.
that nice straw hat with a nice brim on it. I was remember that too.
And the coolers. Remember the coolers for all the water we had.
And the kids would come, and he'd go to the east porch and get that toy box out and turn them loose. And they'd take all the toys
Oh, really?
because the toy they wanted was on the bottom. And
Kids
my
have.
mother would do a slow burn.
I was just going to say, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Your mom made the smallest hamburgers I ever had, though. They were little quarters. You had to like find them.
That's right, she did.
I think they were going less meat as the years went by. And she'd say, we have a meatless lunch. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes. We always listened to what's his face out of Sterling with the stock prices, or with the prices of corn.
WSCR.
WSCR, but I'm trying to think of his name. He's still around.
Yeah. He's still giving prices.
Yeah.
Not Orion Sanderson.
A local guy, right?
Yep, local guy. I know where he lives.
He sings in the choir at
Harvest time. Christian Center.
Mary Sue or Mary Lou. What was her last name? Worked with her mother. The Porter Church.
Okay.
Reverend Porter. That's where he sings.
Okay. Wherever that is.
That's 6th Avenue on Clinton Boulevard, just off Clinton Boulevard.
The new church. Yep. This guy lives though on 16th Avenue. Richard Newendike. That's his name.
Richard Noah.
Really?
That's right.
I might have noticed son. I probably worked with son or grandson. I worked
His
with him.
son I've dealt with. Nice son.
What's his first name? He's tall and thin.
I used to work at Kinea, I think.
Very possibly the same one. Because I worked with him at Pomida back in the 80s.
In the days.
He was very young
Pomida.
then.
I remember Grandpa loved his dogs, and he had a dog named Bud, and he taught it how to shake hands, and he'd say, no, the other one, the left one or the right one, and the dog would give you the right paw.
Oh,
That's funny.
Shake hands.
I also remember when he got rid of his last horse and we had that, all those stanchions along that one side when he first came in the barn. He kept his horse and his boxed all over on the other side. And then, of course, I remember all the times we built tunnels up in the haymow and got in trouble because they cave in on somebody.
Yeah.
oh no.
1948,
all the
he got
time.
rid of the horses and bought a W.C. Ellis Chalmers.
But, of course, I
From
loved
Boulder.
horses, so I remember that in particular.
Mike and Bonnie.
Yeah.
Marvin used to get Mike and Bonnie out, and because they wanted to go together, then he'd make me ride Mike because Bonnie was the boss, and he'd ride Bonnie. But here I was, little kid, about 4 years old, 5 years old. My legs were out like this because they were so fat.
Exactly.
Mike
How'd you
was
stay
a
on?
big horse.
I don't know.
He just held on to the mane and
Or he would go bareback,
Yeah, we always rode bareback.
and he'd take one horse down the road and the other one would stand in the barn and whinny.
So that's why he made me ride one.
Oh,
And her dad, I would go down to visit. I'm 5 years older than she is. So I was probably about 8 or 10. And her dad would put me on Silver, was it? Or
Spot.
Spot,
Yeah.
that white horse.
Had
And he
a
put me
big
on
spot
that
on the
horse.
side.
It had a saddle on, I think. Then he'd whack it on the butt. It'd run as fast as it could to the other end.
oh
I'm
Yeah,
no.
right.
afraid of horses.
And here I was.
That's terrifying.
It's a wonder I didn't die.
That's funny.
I have a vague memory of one time they were baling hay at Grandpa's house. And for some reason, somebody didn't show up to help. And it was you and Grandpa and maybe Marvin. And you put me on the tractor, driving the tractor around the field. And I was like 5.
Oh my gosh.
I remember my mother laying an egg later. You did, boy!
I had Liz driving the tractor through the gate while I opened it. But I put the tractor in first gear and idled it way down.
Well, I think
So
you
she
put it in
wasn't,
gear,
she
but I had
wasn't
to go
but
around the
creeping.
circle, around and
I
around.
could have ran
Did
the
all
car on
right.
it
We all need to
anytime.
tell about it.
Well, that does remind me, we were baling hay one time there. Hay or straw, and somebody forgot to put the pin in the hay rack. So when it got heavy in the back, the whole thing went back like this.
Oh my gosh.
And everybody went off the back. So
Oh, that's a,
Grandpa
that's a
too.
story.
So everybody
Yeah.
just went.
Oh.
I bet he was a little irritated.
He was a little bit upset.
You know, I
But his
this
little
morning,
bit upset was a lot different than most people's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
this morning we were talking about tricks, playing tricks on people, and we went to the mortar breakfast, and I think it was Jim Blackburn said, he's from Franklin Grove. He said they played a trick on somebody who had their rack out there, was bailing, you know, and they were gone. Of course, at night they turned that rack around, took it off its running gear.
Oh, no.
Turned
Oh,
it
my
around.
gosh.
So the standard was the wrong end. And the guy started the baler up, and all the bales went go poop.
Oh
He wasn't paying attention or he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, something was wrong. It was still hooked, you know. But here the standard was next to the baler.
Oh, great.
Then I think that family did a lot of funny things. If I remember Jim Blackburn,
Yeah.
he's always had a story.
So you know Jim and Mary Ann then.
Mary Ann, is that
That's
the,
his
the Jim
current wife,
current? Okay, I
Yeah.
knew his first wife. Yeah.
Barb.
Barb.
So yeah, we're good friends with them.
Doug worked with him for a while up at the egg place, and we
Yeah.
got kind of ran around a little bit.
So okay, we better go to the next one.
Yeah.
All right.
I just remember when Grandpa had his funeral and Kayla was a little girl. She was probably 3. Yeah, she was 3. And we walked into the church and Grandpa was in the casket right there.
Yeah.
And she was telling everybody, Grandpa's in a suitcase.
Oh no.
Isn't that interesting? That's interesting how
Very cute.
Kids
a child.
interpret things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yep. He had the most beautiful hair.
Yes, he did. And it
Beautiful
had that nice little wave to it
Then,
all.
then comes the sons,
Sons.
all 3.